Look at the spiral on it. This is known as ayahuasca. It looks like the DNA.
Oh, yeah.
See the spiral?
Yeah.
In ancient Hemmitt and pre-Islamic so-called Middle East, there's an herb that was used to protect against the evil eye. It was used to magnify your telepathic abilities, to receive and transmit. In the Latin name, it is called Syrian rue. It's in the family of coffee. You can take a piece, pass it around. Get familiar with it. It is used throughout the world. Treatment and prevention of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Now the funny thing I was thinking about this morning was melatonin and melanin. It sounds like a real close connection. Melanin,
Yeah.
melatonin, melanin, melatonin. This herb, when prepared correctly, amplifies the production of melatonin, which is the opening of the first eye. Your pineal gland needs certain herbs. This one is called Syrian rue. It is time, family. We got 2012 around the corner. It is time for you to start getting into certain sacred herbs that you don't have to worry about the police coming and putting handcuffs on you while you're cooking it over your pot. Because I know many of us are herbal shocked, concerned about that. This is legal. All right? You will find it in certain stores that are from Iran. It's called Esphand. E-S-P-H-A-N-D. So I'm going to pass this bag around. What's amazing about this herb is if you put a piece of it in your mouth and try lifting something of heavy weight, it'll feel lighter than it did before you put it in your mouth because it has concentrated light. The North African shamans, this particular herb was represented as a circle with the dot in the middle. Circle with the dot. What is that? In astrology, representing of the sun, the sunshine within. So with Esphand, African Ra, what the plant medicine told us years ago it prefers to be called, will also reduce bacteria and fungus production in the bloodstream. You can take this and place it, once it's prepared correctly, on the skin over your chakras for activation, to know without knowing. What happens with use of African Ra, or what is known as Syrian rue, or some people call African rue, is it puts you in a wavelength. Your mind becomes in sync with the pulse and the breath of Mother Earth. In other words, us thinking excessively, called beta state, we become stressed because we're not functioning from our first eye. We're functioning from our false eyes and false operating system. With 2012 around the corner and beyond, it's time to upgrade our operating systems. It's time for all of us everyone here is into computers, right? Raise your hand if you're into computers. Just about everybody. So you understand what I mean when I say operating systems?
Yeah.
In other words, the way we're thinking is quickly becoming obsolete. We have to become intuitively fluent. That is what will save us. Knowing without knowing, like many people who turned away from going to work the morning of 9/11 because their intuition said, go home.
Yes.
Don't come to work. Those who rationalize, use their analytical left brain saying, I got bills, my child's in school. They overridden their primal, superior knowledge. So they went and fulfilled their destiny, unfortunately. So each of us are able, with certain herbs, now you can combine African rod with tobacco. This is a nice intro. This is Sacred Herbs 101. All right, we're not going to get deep into ayahuasca. That's another chapter at another day. But it's known as the vine of the soul. It's a spirit herb. I'm going to pass this around so that you can feel it, sense it. And for those of us who are sensitive, connect with it. This is, again, African raw, or it's known as Syrian root. It looks like small little beans. Pass it around, take a few so that you can chew it. Don't worry, you won't see colors or go into altered states. Tobacco has a history throughout the world. I'm holding on to this. You got some energy in here.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, there's some power there.
Oh, it is definitely.
I'm getting pulled into the vortex.
That's a part of the presentation right there.
Tobacco is used as the opening of your awareness to come into the awareness of your heart. The way tobacco is used today is a bent and twisted cyborg mutation of what tobacco was originally used for. It is a hot natured herb, so you have to drink with water, but when you correctly make the concentration to match your body, it's easy for you to have flying dreams after drinking about an ounce or two. How many of us have ever had flying dreams? Isn't it the most beautiful experience? This herb here will help you fly. Nicotiana rustica. So look up wild tobacco online. You can also look up how to prepare it. The simplest way is 1 bundle to 1 gallon. Chop it up into a food processor. Bring it to a boil. Let simmer for 12 hours. Preferably with music. All right? African raw, Syrian root. I'm going to give you the recipe. Would y'all like it?
Yeah.
First, do not take it if you're pregnant or on medication such as high blood pressure medication. All right? It's known as a myo inhibitor. What that simply means is if your body isn't clean and healthy, don't try to put on the afterburners and take off. Because you need to go through the herbal cleansing. Oh, take some out, brother. Each of you take some. Keep it with you. If any of you have a medicine pouch or you have crystals, you place the herbs to create the bridge with the crystals and the sacred herbs. But you're not getting none in my poncho. See, I'm holding on to that. There's a reason for that. With the Syrian root, the best way to start as far as preparation, bake at 350 degrees for approximately 20 to 30 minutes. Then grind down to a powder. You can use a Vitamix. Add to approximately, say, a gallon of water. Say about 6 ounces of raw African raw to a gallon of water. Add 1 ounce of lemon juice so that you can change the pH of the water. And when you change the pH of the water, the active elements that's inside this wonderful ancient herb is released into the water. Everybody with me?
Yep.
What this will do with regular use, and it was also used by Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, the mystery schools of ancient Egypt, the shamans of North Africa, it allows you to extend your awareness. So I have available at my table some, not much of it, available in the pineal gland tea. The balance of the herbs are used by Shaolin monks to hear the one-hand clap, to quiet the mind, because often living in the concrete jungle, in the canyon city, our minds start to become overwhelmed with the snow of electronic pollution. Can I get ashe? Okay. The electronic pollution affects us to be randomly thinking thoughts, experiencing energies, because we are in touch with the low frequency vibrations. By drinking certain sacred herbs such as African raw, such as wild tobacco, you can allow yourself to be raised above the frequencies that are harmful, such as cell phones, such as the computers, such as being in the subway system. So, when I began my journey in self-discovery, the first herb that we used to have ceremony with, that was done for thousands of years throughout the world, is tobacco ceremonies, in the form of tea, not smoke. Some people throughout the world use smoke, but the majority of indigenous people have used wild tobacco in the form of tea. Following herb, again, take your time, get familiar with it. It is an amazingly wonderful herb that you can add a little bit of honey to sweeten, and some may even realize it tastes similar to coffee. But don't drink a whole lot, too much. When you're getting acquainted with herbs, family, you take a little bit, start with 2 or 3 ounces, stay indoors, don't go clubbing. Take the time, treat the herb as a sacred friend. Get acquainted and quiet with gentle music. That's what I want to share tonight, this afternoon. Yes, I do have bottles. Oh, no, can I do that?
Yeah.
Alkaline like nature design. But before I jump to the quartz, is there any questions about the herb? African raw? Everybody took the notes they wanted? For 1 gallon, 1 ounce of lemon juice, no more than 2. Otherwise, you're going to have some African raw lemonade. And then you'll be sharing some of that, and people will be wondering why. See a trailer behind their hand. Why some people might feel, drop the inhibitions a little more. You don't want to go there like that. A lot of us are experiencing emotional stress. We are literally, some people are walking around a living time bomb. And when given certain sacred herbs in a high enough dose or concentration, it's like somebody opened up the trap door and all that stress, back pressure from not being expressive starts to rise. You don't want that. Start easy. Okay? We all have times that we have to go out and scream. So if you really want to hit it heavy, once you get familiar with it, go to the beach, to the park, so that you're not in your apartment and you feel so good that you start to scream and holler and somebody call the cops thinking, there's some problems in the house. I'm speaking from experience, right? This is all experience. No smoke. We already smoke if we're living in New York City. You're smoking right now because the air coming through those filters is dirty. You look up at the air discharge ducts, you can almost see the soot. So you smoking right now while you're sitting in this lecture hall. Believe me, I'm real familiar with that air supply coming into this building. All right? The other city buildings. So, that is an overview, basics 101 of wild tobacco, African raw, known as Syrian rue. Okay? Now, moving to blue quartz bottle. My motto for the bottles is called Alkaline like Nature Design. Simply put, where's all glass from? Sand. When you look at a particle of sand, what do you see? Crystals. Every ocean is surrounded by what? Sand. On the bottom of the ocean is sand. On the sides are quartz, rocks, and the surface, along the edges of the beaches, sand. It's quartz. Every river is surrounded by what? River rocks. On the bottom, On the sides, you go to the Hudson River, you go to the East River, for us locals, you will find huge quartz boulders sitting along the river's edge. And if you, as a kid, you might have sat on there with your bicycle behind you, like I did. It's crystal. New York City is mostly crystal. They still don't understand how the air is ionized in New York City. It's ionized from the quartz in Manhattan, in Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx. Quartz ionizes not only the air, but it alkalizes the water. Quartz, activated quartz, activates water to become alkaline. So if the lights go out, and those of us who are fortunate enough to buy an alkaline machine instead of a car, used car, you can go back to your quartz alkaline bottle. Now, quartz activated glass is the material that I use in the bottle. What that simply means is I put it through an electrical process to awaken the dormant crystal molecules in each bottle. So that when you place water inside the bottle, it will immediately, at the speed of quartz, crystal technology, as you find in your computers, as you find in your wristwatches, as you will find in future transportation, as you will find in our brother Abdur's crystal jewelry. Raise your hand, brother. He does laser alkalinity with his quartz jewelry, activating the quartz with laser technology. That's cutting edge. So that's why I got to give him a shout out. Y'all give him a hand. Genius in our community. Laser is concentrated light. You have to feed crystals to activate them. Crystals used to be fed by a woman's sacred moon essence discharge. You don't take crystals and just use them and snatch them like a Borg off Star Trek. Y'all familiar with Borgs? Half machine, half man. We've come to take and not give. We will assimilate you. Resistance is futile. What you would be considered are the outlaws of the Borg society. Can you got that?
Yeah, got it.
Independent thinkers? So, anytime you go to elders in the tradition of ancient times, you give offerings. Some would give offerings of tobacco. Your family can come and visit from the south. They would bring pie, iced tea. That tradition has been lost because now we go over to the house and say, what you got to eat? What you got to eat? What you bring? You got to bring something to get something. So with crystals, the way to activate them, clean them with teaspoons. Some people may disagree, but so far this is the most powerful way to clean a crystal. Apple cider vinegar, 4 ounces apple cider vinegar, 2 ounces of sea salt, and about 12 ounces of water. That crystal will be screaming clean. Did you get that? Apple cider vinegar, sea salt, and water. Feed the crystal. Men, once a month, take a sample of your liquid crystal and place it on the crystal. And don't let anybody handle your stuff once you let it evaporate in the sun. Women, the most powerful energy you have is your moon time. Take a drop, place it on the crystal, let it dry in the moonlight. Then that crystal is ready to give you assistance in whatever you desire. Everybody got that?
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying I got that kind of essence on the blue quartz bottles. You don't have to worry about that. However, this is what I want you to think about. If in nature, where alkalinity is generated by oceans, rivers, streams, you have ionization of the air. To know if you're in touch with nature by using an alkaline machine, where's the ionized air when you turn the machine on? Do you have an ionized kitchen when you turn on the alkaline machine? No, you don't. But it's a move in the right direction. It is not the absolute. So many of us, including myself, I had to go into the plant kingdom to look for answers how to create alkaline water. So I give tribute to my own I am divinity and the opening of the way with the sacred herbs from the plant kingdom. There are actually people who have gotten Nobel Peace Prizes because they took ayahuasca and got a complex insight on how to develop DNA replication and a whole sorts of other things. So when you take the quartz, the blue quartz bottle, fill it up with water, it instantly alkalizes the water. And the most beautiful thing you can do at night is place it in a bowl of water to ionize your room. This becomes a transmitter, and the bowl literally becomes a dust collector. And that is how nature also cleanses the air with alkalinity and ionization. Everybody all right? I want to thank Shabazz for giving me this time, and thank my brother Bobby, and I'm going to sit down with you and hear the magic he's about to do. Thank you.
Peace, everybody. I want to give a shout out to someone who just came in the door. It's a brother named Jason back there. He's a nutritional coach. He does all manner of things on the line of what you just heard this brother doing. That's part of my team that I roll with. It's a group called Soul, that's Sons of Universal Light, Universal Love, however you put it. But we meet and we do meditation and we do a lot of things. Come on, I want you to show you the people. Come here, man. He's just going to introduce to the people. Brother Jason will be.
But still yet let them visit.
And also Brother Hank's rising son will be outside with the crystals for the water, the bottles.
Take all that off.
With the bottles, and he also does a lot of, these are his bottles that he manufactures himself, and it alkalines the water naturally. This is Brother Jason. He's going to be here when Dr. Mitchell Gibson comes. He's going to open actually for him. Y'all going to see he gives classes. The brother's bad. I love this brother, and he's on point. I love you, man. Peace.
I love the work this brother's doing in the community. We need this information.
All right, no doubt. Peace, man. Peace, peace.
Love you, man.
All right, without any further ado, I'm going to bring y'all the master, Brother Bobbyhemmitt.
Since we're dealing with the pineal gland, this is what came about a month ago, like in a vision. Brother already just a bad witness when he stepped in to this thing, how powerful this is. This is going to be one of the charts that you can get to, you stare in it each day as many times as you want, and you train your third eye. We're going to go into the science of that, but this is a device that we will be using. We're going to go into the science of that today and go further into this particular information, and it is equipped with several things. It's almost as if each symbol came to be put into something to make it a device, to make it a device that you can actually use. And when the Spirit gives you stuff, it works. And the Spirit gives you stuff, I mean, it really is right on point. And so therefore, and we just got bear witness with the brother that felt the energy. Now this is interesting here. Last time I did a lecture was in New York, was in January. Last time I did a lecture. So I took a 4-month break by choice. You know, well, it was 6 months actually. It was January and this is June. And certain thing happened to me this past last, I guess, 24 hours. So like I said, I had a lecture in January of this year. Didn't do no lectures up until today. Something happened between that time, because what happened was the reason why the Spirit didn't allow me to actually feel inspired to go on a certain amount of lectures, and I got a lot of offers, is because I was going through your own transformation, which has been the case since I've been lecturing. This month here will mark the 19th year that I started. I've been studying well over 20-something years, but I started in 1992 with the Dogon lecture, and I think that June 27th of this month will be 19 years. 19 years, and I started when I was 30. I'll be 50 in November the 28th, which is called the 50 Gates of Understanding. So once you entered into your 50th year, throughout the whole time when I was doing all this research, I was also going through my own initiation. And that's the reason how you last. See, if a lot of people just do research for data and do stuff, they don't last very long, because they're on a certain path, and when that style or when that particular information go out, they go out with that particular information. That's why everybody should be in their own path of initiation, of what they call the hero's journey, and that way somebody can always find you on the path doing some work, you see what I'm saying, based on what's privy to the path that you're on at that particular time. So people used to accuse me, say, man, you're not talking about the stuff you talked about in the 90s. Yeah, that's because I talked about it in the 90s. Everything is ongoing. Everything is ongoing. You see what I'm saying? And you must change with what's going as far as the research. If you've already done that, now before you do it, it's the mystery. It's spiritual. Once you tapped into it and you present it, it becomes data, because you've already done it. And if you keep doing that data, or keep trying to present the same stuff, then it becomes a religion, a theology. You see what I'm saying? A theology. And that's where we get trapped. You must keep going. And we'll get into some of the science on that. So pretty much, as long as I was doing the work and the research, I was also going through my form of initiation. So when I decided in January that I'm going to chill for a minute, and I said, well, I can take them lectures and put them off during the summer, and just, and put them back and just see what's going on. And as you can imagine, with the weather and everything else that's been going on since January, it's amazing stuff. But what happened was, they also wanted me to see a certain thing. When I went through the airport in January, they got this nuclear machine they got now. And it scans your body and it shows all this stuff on you. And I did that in January. Yesterday when I went through, I didn't show up. So they couldn't find nothing. Now what had happened, that's called your light body has gone to a certain level. And so it couldn't be detected on the radiation. So what happened was, when I didn't show up, they stopped me and told me to go back through again. So when I went back through again, didn't show up again. Now mind you me, I don't know what's going on until I got on the plane, and about 15 minutes or 20 minutes into the flight, I realized what was going on. Because she said, you moved. And when you move like that, you don't show. I'm like, come on now. I moved. What it was, she was trying to put it together in her mind, this sister, on why I didn't register on this radiation machine. So as a result, I had to go through the pat down. And I cleared the pat down, and all of that, And so, but I was wondering, I said, man, this is kind of awkward. Why would this happen this way? And then when I got on the machine, when I got on the plane, I said, oh, I got it. I didn't show up on the radiation machine or nothing. It was a blank. But what had happened was, between January and yesterday, you have series of going through several dimensions. Your light body goes through several dimensions. So you are not where you were 6 months ago, especially if you're conscious and you are aligning yourself with a certain amount of energies. You see what I'm saying? And so what happened was, we know, because we got these black cats, and they'll disappear in and out of these dimensions. So what I didn't realize was when they was disappearing in and out of dimensions, me and my queen was disappearing in and out of dimensions, but for some reason, because we live such a physical life, a lot of times we're someplace and still thinking we someplace else. So when I went through the scanner, I was in another dimension, I was in another world. And so Linda was like, well, when you go through this time, you know, so these people don't put you on some checklist. Look out, Mr. Superman. Materialize yourself before you go through. Before you go through, materialize yourself. So the point I'm trying to make here is this is in the same alignment with these tornadoes that come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden these tornadoes are looking like nuclear bombs. You see what I'm saying? And they're trying to make all these excuses about some warm weather and all this kind of stuff in the jet stream and all that bullshit, and they know what time it is. You see, because when the one hit Alabama, it went from Tuscaloosa to Birmingham. And they knew what time it is. When that hit, Barack Obama gave his birth certificate. That hit on a Tuesday or something. Barack Obama gave his birth certificate. And the next thing you know, they're taking down Bin Laden. You know, Bin Laden died in 2001. They wouldn't even have a villain and blow up a building and have somebody living that can get caught and tell the truth. You know what I'm saying? So these are programs that they put in for mind control. You see what I'm saying? For mind control. So there's things that's actually happening. You see. And the next thing you know, the whole Bin Laden thing comes out. If he had his birth certificate from the beginning and knew it, why didn't he present it from the beginning? Because you got to realize these things are a series of programs that's used to make news and used to distract people. And then when they get the distraction to a certain point, then he'll come out with the birth certificate. Or they'll come out with Bin Laden. You see what I'm saying? After literally 11 years. You see what I'm saying? You see, or 10 years. So you got to look at things like that and understand the same forces that brought the tornadoes and brought the earthquake in Japan is the same things where we're changing dimensionally. We're going to get into some of that. We're going to get into some of that as we go on. But right now I want to, we're dedicating this lecture to the Sister Hatshepsut or the Sister Bert Lockett or Alberta Lockett. Now she made the transition. Now I went to go get a transparency, but the machine was down, so I have the actual picture. But I'm gonna put this on. I'm gonna log this into the actual camera, so the people in TV land, when they get it, they can see. This is a picture of Alberta Lockett, or what they call Bert Lockett. This is her mother, and this is Dr. Ben. Now this was at Bert's 70th birthday back in 2003. I think she would have been, not 2003, 2007. She would have been 74 on her birthday this coming December. This coming December. This was her mother that died maybe about 2 years ago, and Bert grieved for like 2 years. Sometimes you gotta let stuff, she grieved for like 2 years. Sometimes they say the grieving process is supposed to last a year. She grieved for like 2 years and made the transition. Now, I don't know nothing about no water or nothing like that. I'm just gonna tell you what she was saying in the hospital room as a coherent person. And so we're gonna have to let the water experts hash that out. I'm not a water expert, you know what I'm saying? I fuck around and drink a Mountain Dew on your ass in a minute. Now, I am an expert on this stuff right here. Alcohol. But she claimed that the Kangen water killed her. Nobody wasn't hearing it. So, like I said, you know, but I did know she grieved for a while, and certain things came to a head. You see what I'm saying and all, and I did know that she really, you know, grieved for a minute over her mother making the transition. So, you know, you can't just make statements. But my point here is, we do have Hank Rising Sun. We do have 2 other water experts that's going to appear on the Raspberry Remix, or what they call a remix, which is the Sister Blues show. And so in the next couple of months, and they'll hash out what the deal is, you see, on this type of thing here. But what we do know, like he said, if the electricity shuts off and your machine, you can't get your machine, because there's several of these alkaline machines, you can pour water in this bottle. And I bear witness to that. You see what I'm saying? You can pour water in this bottle and stuff and all. And he has those bottles out there on the table. But what makes this woman so special is this woman is responsible. Number one, she's responsible because Valentine had been doing work in the community for years. But she was the one that she was the one that actually brought Valentine out. Because it was 1994, she had Deborah Blair to come and speak, and she had Valentine to open for Blair. And after that, you see what I'm saying? And then after that, you know, there's Henry DiBernardo. She was the first to bring me here. I started in 92. She was the first to bring me here in the spring of 94. The spring of 94. So you can say she was a pioneer in bringing certain people out. Now, people, you know, Bert was a little rough around the edges as far as her appearance. But then again, that's one of those goddess things like a Sheena Master or a Kali or a Oya. You must try to understand and profile the process of different entities we have. And that's why we don't need to judge people, because the simple fact, everybody's not supposed to be the same way. You understand what I'm saying? And we need certain people to appear a certain way to deprogram you. Now it's interesting because this is the god Ganesha, what they call Gana Ishu. So Ishu is the god of the opener of the way, or the god of the crossroads. In India it's called Ganesha, but Ganesha is broken down in Sanskrit as Gana Ishu, which means that's African in origin. You see what I'm saying? African in origin, and you have an Indian elephant or Asian elephant, and you have an African elephant, which is bigger, but nevertheless there is this connection. One of the things they say is the first people he's the most popular deity in India, and the first people to accept him as children. Children can look at things and be at awe with it, and they're the first to accept Ganesha. You see what I'm saying? Adults have a little problem with a big-bellied, elephant head man with several arms, because we are trapped into certain design to make us judge. You see, it takes a lot to break down an adult, you see what I'm saying, to use a certain definition of what they're experiencing, or to gain a certain definition of what they're experiencing. It's just like a brother. Like I said, I went to college for years, and not because I was so academically inclined. It's just that I used to take at least 12 hours so I could have a place to stay. 3 hearts in a cot. You see, so I was up in there about damn near 8 years up in that baby, just living, taking my classes and shit. So nobody can't tell me nothing about the world of college, but I did remember this thing. One of the brothers that loved my work, and he didn't reject it. You got some people just out reject it. He was trying to understand this metaphysical thing. But he was getting a PhD in some type of political revolutionary thing. It was a political science, but he had tapped into the revolutionary thing because his heroes was Malcolm, his heroes was Marcus Garvey and stuff. But he was having a lot of problems trying to understand this spirit world. And I told him what you have to do is you got to deprogram your mind. You've been trained to be a left brain prisoner, and you're going to have to deprogram your mind to the point whereas everything that sounds bizarre, everything that sounds weird, just accept it for a month, and everything that sounds logical, rational, and make common sense, look at that as the weird. Because what you're trying to do is deprogram or trying to shatter these different patterns that we make for ourselves. So the problem here, and it's just interesting when we talk about this Sister Burt. Now you will see this when you get the tape. Some people approached me. Burt brought me in the fall, in early winter of 1994. She then again brought me in the summer of 1994, and a group of people from First World approached me and said, you know, we like your work, we know you're doing, we recognize the scholarship. We want to bring you to First World, but what we want to do is, in some kind of way, we want you to try to distance yourself from Sister Hatshepsut, because she is not socially accepted by a bunch of handkerchief head niggas. And I said, no, I'm not even going to play that game. You see what I'm saying? The Spirit puts in your path who's supposed to be in your path. It's up to you to accept it and deal with it. And as a result, she was able to bring all the metaphysical stuff. You see what I'm saying? She was able to bring a lot of the metaphysical people through, which the First World people at that particular time were still dealing with the historical thing. Now don't get me wrong, we're not saying one is different than the other. It's just that we got to understand there's different categories. But too often what we do is each person wants to level the other person's thing. So as a result of her being on the fringes, in the outskirts, she would be a person that would be caught up into something that somebody was saying that was a little too liberal, and she don't want to do alienate the people that's so-called conservative within which they deem to be reality. You understand what I'm saying? So by her being in the fringes, you see what I'm saying, and she was also in the life, if you know what I mean by that type thing, you know, on the you know what in the life is. We talk about alternative sexual alternatives and stuff like that. By her living this type of lifestyle, sometimes it frees you. You understand what I'm saying? That you don't have to be on lockdown to please the status quo. You see what I'm saying? Which in all honesty might be hiding in front of themselves. You see what I'm saying? Like that. So that's one thing about her, but she made the transition, and we wanted to give a shout out to her. We also, I'm going to pour the libations, but we also want to give a shout out to a master by the name of Kenneth Grant. Now, Kenneth Grant, it is said, now let me give you the history on Kenneth Grant. Kenneth Grant is a British occultist or a British scholar. He's probably known as the greatest British occultist to live. Why? Because they give a lot of praise to Aleister Crowley. What Kenneth Grant did is Aleister Crowley received these transmissions from this Egyptian, ancient, African deity called Ayahuasca, in his historical form, a deity called Untitled, which on his funerary tablet is the tall black man. You see what I'm saying? And dark-skinned man. Later on, he received these transmissions from this guy in 1904, and they did the book of, and basically he gave him the transmission of the Book of the Law, which is like the last chapter of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Some people say, well, why would they give it to Crowley and give it to these white folk? Well, black people in 1904, you understand what I'm saying, was just coming off the farms. You see what I'm saying? Right. And the Africans, you see what I'm saying, was right in the grips of colonization. So sometimes things is given to people, you see, to carry on the work because we're not able to do it. And that's what we did. We did it as the Moors when we carried all the stuff up into Spain. So that give them the information, they can preserve the information, so when we come out of our sleep, we would have the information. So this is why in 1904, Ayahuasca, which came to Aleister Crowley and gave him this, but what Crowley and them did, Crowley was very in love with Masonic societies. So what they did is they coded a lot of stuff, other than the book of the law, by the stuff being coded, the teachings, it was lost because it was coded and hidden based on these Masonic societies. What Kenneth Grant did in the 1950s is he came in and what he did was he simplified it, and he released a whole lot of secrets, especially with the release of his book Magical Revival in 1972. The reason why you don't know about him and the reason why he's not as famous as a lot of occultists now is because Kenneth Grant did one of the things that was done in 1907 by Gerald Massey. He said it all was black. And when he did that, he became persona non grata to the occult world. Just like Gerald Massey became a social pariah to the academic world of the Egyptology world, which is still today one of the greatest Egyptologists to ever live, is Gerald Massey. Is Gerald Massey. Ancient Egypt, Light of the World, the last book, Book of the Beginnings, the second before the last, and Natural Genesis, the first. And believe me, you can look at these things to this day, and this stuff, and his last book it's been over 104 years since his death, because the last book came out the same year of his death. We're talking about Gerald Massey, Light of the World, and it is just as advanced as it was. You see what I'm saying? When he put it out in 1907. So Kenneth Grant was one of the other people by his. The first book he dealt with Africa. The second book he dealt with Africa. By his third book, Cults of the Shadow, he went all African. And after that, and all this Egyptian stuff, and put it back into black. Now history is repeating itself as of the last 2 months. We're going to get in that in a few minutes. But after that, he became the persona non grata, and what that means is persona non grata means person ungrateful, social pariah, outcast of the occult world. Now, unfortunately, one thing is fortunate. Since he made the transition, on the last time I lectured, which was Martin Luther King's birthday. What's that, the 25th? The 15th. So he made the transition on January the 15th on Martin Luther King's birthday. I thought that kind of fitting for a man that became a social pariah because he said all of this stuff is black. So he was in his 80s when he made the transition. Now, one of the keys here with that is when he made the transition, the books was already high. So most of these books now is starting at $400 too. He's got nine what they call Typhonian trilogies. And from those 9 Typhonian trilogies, most of them are starting at $400 to $1,300, $1,200. Fortunately, his first book, Magical Revival, is out. He put it out about a year or two ago. What is it, about $50?
60, 70.
60 or 70. So fortunately, his first book, Magical Revival by Kenneth Grant, they put it back out and you can get it available about $60 or $70. And believe me, that's cheap. Because the other ones, $400, $500, $1,000. You see what I'm saying? A lot of other people, some of his students that was inspired by him is Peter Moon, Pyramids of Montauk, Black Sun. These are people that's inspired by Kenneth Grant. A new book out was one of his people that's inspired by him, and you could get your access to these. This is $16. This just came out. The guy's name is Aeolus, A-E-O-L-U-S. His last name is Kepius, K-E-P-H-A-S, K-E-P-H-A-S. So that's A-E-O-L-U-S, K-E-P-H-A-S. And the name of the book is called Homo Sapiens. Homo Sapiens, the occult history of DNA from Eden to Armageddon, which he had a whole chapter on Ayahuasca and the Ayahuasca working in Crowley and all of this type of stuff. But he also has a in here. He has also a part in here. His index, as far as his bibliography, is all of Kenneth Grant's works. So he is one, because one of the keys here is most occult people are not allowed if you own certain companies, like if you own Samuel Weiser or if you own Llewellyn. If you use Kenneth Grant's works, the people the OTO, the society that Crowley started, a lot of the people who provide the material that these people are allowed to sell some of Crowley's stuff will snatch that stuff away if they use Kenneth Grant works. So so a lot of these companies and a lot of people won't use his work, and a lot of them are racist anyway, because they don't want to give Kenneth Grant credit. A lot of stuff, when they go back and the same stuff that they talk about, Kenneth Grant is saying, no, this is all African, this is all black. You see what I'm saying? This is all black. You see. So that's the reason why you don't see him in the bibliographies. In the bibliographies and stuff like that. So this is one of the newer books that's out, and I want to give you this Exhibit A on that. But we celebrate the life of Kenneth Grant because he did like Massey. They said that Gerald Massey wrote for black people. Now, come to find out, Gerald Massey, who was British, was supposed to go into the British Museum, because what happened was after they came out of Egypt, a lot of people were scheduled to go into the British Museum and start rehashing this particular information. You see, because Napoleon and them came, stole, the British came and stole, and so you got your Louvre in Paris, which there's a part of that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, and you have the British Museum became loaded with all the Egyptian artifacts. So they got people in the 19th century like E. Wallace Budge and Adolf Ehrman, several people, there's a lot of them from the 19th century scholars, went in and basically just saw things that was white, saw things that was black, and just excluded the whole racial aspect of it. So all of a sudden the Egyptians come down, they don't have a culture. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, they say they're in Africa, but they omit the aspect of African people. So Gerald Massey was scheduled to go in. He was a visionary. He could look at stuff and it's called transvisionary, because he was a clairvoyant and all that, so he could actually not only he knew hieroglyphics, but he could also not only translate what he saw, but he also could get transmissions and put stuff back right. But before he went into the British Museum, the goddess Sekhmet came to him and said, number one, you are of the black race. And number two, do not flinch when you go in the British Museum and this stuff comes of African. Print what you know. And that's how Gerald Massey became the outcast. You see, same thing with Crowley. I got a transmission from one of the Sister Ty City. She said, you know he was black. I said, I had a little trouble with that. But then I started reading his last book he wrote, the Book of Thoth, and he talks about this obscure race I find myself trapped into, find myself among. And so, so what you'll find out here is not only because there's all kind of information coming out, but not only are these people here scheduled to do the work to make sure that this particular work is make sure this work is tell her to close the door, because that distracts me. Not only are these people put forth to relay this information to us, but these people are also of our bloodline a lot of times. You see, like, let me give you an example. Now, the sister Myra Moss did something in Baltimore where she's claiming, based on the mitochondrial DNA, comes from the woman, that Barack Obama can't be black because his mother didn't come from the African line. Well, you can't really go by that no more because he's from Ireland. And that's your Druids. And this thing is muddled now. You can't go by just because the appearance of a person anymore. There's all kind of bloodlines, and come to find out that the European part of their history for the last 500 years is to hide their African bloodline. You see, that's why the Queen and all of them are real pissed because of that whole Queen Charlotte aspect, which the Moor screwed some British woman or whatever of the royal line, and Queen Charlotte, or Charlotte, North Carolina, was born black. And as a result, the British had declared war on Islam and everything. You see what I mean? Based on that. So the lines are muddled now. We live in a time, and plus we talk about the Moors being up in there for 700 years. You see what I mean? That's what they did. They spread their bloodline. I talked about that the last time. So we just can't say because a person is white, you see what I'm saying, as far as the appearance, we don't know what kind of bloodlines is going on. You see. And for the simple fact now we got this information that they've been hiding bloodlines. You see, so everything, everything is not just black and white. There's more gray areas than it is anything else. I want to say a couple other things as going on before we go on. This is a book. This was an exhibit a brother sent to me from, I think it was out in Seattle. A brother sent this to me. They had an exhibit of the Olmecs out in Seattle. Now I'm going to get this because I want you to get this book. I want you to get this book. I think I got a bookmark in here on the store. The exhibit is gone now, but the brother did go and he bought the book for me. I tried to, he went back another time looking for some kind of DVD. But this is why this is very important. Usually when we see the Olmecs, we only see the big heads. You don't see nothing else. And what they tell you here is that they didn't have a writing system. In 1976, I was able to get a book recently, before this came out. About a couple of months ago, I found a book in a thrift store on Reader's Digest Mysteries, Ancient Mysteries. And for the first time, I saw things and artifacts on the Olmecs that wasn't just the big heads, wasn't just the heads. And then right after I got the book, this brother sent me this book from the exhibit, which gives you all different types of, and we could put this before and all because I'll just show you all different types of artifacts. We could put these on there. All different types of artifacts of the Olmecs, you see, other than the heads. I'll pass this around after we get through. You see what I'm saying? So, be delicate to it. But what I want you to do here is it gives you all these different artifacts. But if you look real close, some of these artifacts got writings on them. They say they didn't have writings. And the reason why they can't really show you the writings is because when you see the Mayans, that's the Olmecs. It's another stolen legacy. You understand what I'm saying? When you see the Mayans, you see all that, and you thinking it's this culture. No, what they did was, for years, the people of that region, or the scholars of that region, they just basically separated the African heads from the writings and called it Mayan. There's no such thing. See, this is a big trick. So you got a whole civilization with the pyramids and all of that, but they decide, no, we can't change this like we did Egypt. Egypt was on a continent. If we could have somehow broke off Egypt from Africa, we might have could have fronted. So what I'm trying to tell you is they literally took these people, the Olmecs, civilization, call it the Mayans, but all of the writing system, the pyramids and all this stuff, You see what I'm saying? Only thing they did is they just separated the big heads away from all of that. You understand? The Aztecs, the Incas, or whatever you want to call them. It was nothing but one culture, the Mayan culture. Now all of a sudden they're sneaking back in now and putting this stuff back, but one or two little artifacts got writings on them. So it's important that you get this book. It's called Olmecs, Colossal Masterworks of Ancient Mexico. Now you're gonna go to the D Young D. It's a small D-E Young Y-O-U-N Legion of Honor museum stores. Let me see if I can find something else. Museum stores at, this is the way you can probably get the book. Museum stores, and it's that little ad, for the internet. FAMSF.org. FAMSF. So FAMSF.org. So museum stores at FAMSF.org. So you need to call and see, can you get this particular book called the Olmecs, the Colossal Masterworks of Ancient Mexico. You want to try to get this in, because the exhibit is gone. But it's ironic because after this left, it was followed by a Moorish exhibit. You see, so we need to reclaim, just like this is another form of stolen legacy, where they told you they didn't need no writing system. They did. It was called Mayan. You understand? So they systematically separated these things out to make a new culture. You know, to make a new culture. Another thing that the great brother C. Freeman L., the great master that passed back in 08, always said, when you see the pirates historically was none other than the Moors. Bottom line, no exceptions on any other thing. So we got to have a whole other history of the pirates, because what happened? The pirates was these renegades that lost their home. So like C. Freeman L. said, after they were ousted from Spain, they got on boats and started robbing and start taking stuff back. You see what I'm saying? Why is it that it had 3 pirates of the Caribbeans, actually 4, and there's a black presence in all of them? Last one, they was using voodoo. You see what I'm saying? You see, and a black presence in all of them. The point I'm trying to make here is, they know it. Why you think Johnny Depp has got dreads? You see, they're trying to tell this story that the pirates, why is it that the pirates were the Moors? You see, why Port Royal was the pirate capital in Jamaica that fell under the sea. You see what I'm saying? But yet Jamaica, to this day, is 98% inhabited by black people. So we have to go and try to understand this particular history and try to understand some things. Now I want to say this other thing, we're going to pour libation, but I want to get this out of the way right now. Now I don't want to try to spread no fear. I just want to give you fair warning so you know what you're up against and you can maneuver around it. One of our brothers that just that you know him, he's appeared with me in Black Mental Illness 1, Black Mental Illness Predator Nation, Brother TJ, and he used to come here often, you know, and TJ was one of the most astute people in just filling out your paperwork, UCC, or whatever you want to call it. He was one of the best. As a matter of fact, he was so good to white boys would call him to Vegas to do their paperwork. And that's how he made a lot of his money. So some stuff happened. He did some paperwork, some questionable things that went down. And I'm not saying that he probably was some of the stuff was his fault, but one of the keys is they said he got a whole lot of time recently in January, right? Either before January or right after January, he got sent up the river. He got a whole lot of time. But my point here is, the amount of time they said he got, had there been a compounded thing based on an investigation of this. Now, TJ brought me to D.C. in January of '04, and that's when me and my queen decided to hook up. I had known her since I think I met her during the Million Woman March in Philly. I had done a lecture later on that night after the Million Woman March, so I've been knowing her for a minute. But after TJ brought me to D.C., and she was from D.C., we hooked up. That night, when I went back to TJ's house after the lecture, because the next day we did the black mental illness, he showed me these papers after the lecture where all of his stuff was signed off on by Colin Powell. You know, all this stuff here, diplomatic immunity and all this type of stuff, and all of this UCC stuff signed off under Colin Powell with the Moroccan Empire. Okay, so we're going to put it right in your ass. Because this brother was smart. This brother knew it. So some of you dumb ass niggas walk around with your little fezzes on. Half these niggas can't read and write, so you're going to be the first motherfucker go. If they got a smart person, he was so good at what he did that white boys used to call him out from around the country to come do their paperwork. And he sent up the real, I forgot how many years they say he got, close to 40 years. Huh? What? You said 8? I got damn near 40 years. It might have been the original 8, but what happened here is this other thing. Let me tell you something. So now, let me explain what's going on here. The brother Dr. Blind, who wrote The Functionary, he was the first